On this edition of Southern Newsweek, the historic items from Dunedin's Fortune Theatre went under the auctioneer's hammer last week. Work at the Cobden seawall on the west coast is on track for completion. And hundreds of Canterbury farmers imagine what the future might look like. Good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. The historic items from Dunedin's Fortune Theatre went under the auctioneer's hammer last week. Many people had the first chance to look at more than 40 years of history.
From a Ralph Hotary artwork to state-of-the-art and historical technical equipment, more than 4 decades of Fortune Theatre history is set to be up for auction this weekend. Auctioneer John Moore says there's been a lot of interest.
But whether that actually translates into a lot of people being here, what will probably be the deciding factor would be the desirability of the goods. So if there's a lot of things that people want to buy, then you'll get a lot of people here. So, and I think for that it'll be interesting what happens with the lighting equipment and any specialty items. But then there also might be people interested in picking up memorabilia in the form of old props from plays and stuff like that. So it's really difficult to gauge what the response from people is going to be like on the day.
As it's covering the life of the Fortune Theatre, he says there are many items which stand out, both for him and for many of the people who've expressed interest.
Oh well, obviously the Hotary lithographic print that we've got for the play 1981, The Black Union, that sort of struck me the first time I saw it. The Helen Clark poster over there to my left, that's got a lot of people interested. Unfortunately, I found out from someone that it's not actually Helen Clark's signature, it's actually a prop. But there's been a lot of people expressing an interest on that through social media and the lights, and then it's just you know, all the lighting equipment's obviously. There's some really good scaffolding and ladders and stuff like that. I think will show a lot of interest. But yeah,
the theatre's lighting and sound equipment is regarded as fairly state-of-the-art, and that's attracted at least one person's interest, while others have their eyes on a range of items.
Particularly audio gear at the moment. Trying to set up thing where I can have PAs moving around, and there's some really good mixing desks and microphones and things like that, and even just bulk cables is what I'm looking at the moment.
I haven't got my eye on anything other than maybe some posters. It was more a nostalgic opportunity to come and have a final look at the Fortune, where I've enjoyed some really good theatre.
Probably the Ralph Hotary print, really interested in that, so see what happens.
Just looking at a couple of the lighting things and maybe a couple of the props and bits and pieces, just whatever's cool that stands out.
There's another chance to have a look at the items tomorrow morning from 10, with all lots set to go under Hayward's hammer on Saturday. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A new pop-up shop in Invercargill is letting Southlanders have their say about the proposed inner-city redevelopment. Following unveiling of the redevelopment plans, contractor HWCP have opened a space to display the plans and collect feedback from the community.
Invercargill's newest pop-up shop offers the southern community a look at detailed plans for the inner city redevelopment and a chance to tell HWCP if they've got it right.
The 3 directors on the company may not have it all right, the architects may not have it all right, there may be things that we're missing. So we really want the public to have some input into it, which is particularly exciting because it's a journey for the whole of the province that we believe, particularly the people of Invercargill. So we want to take them on that journey and not let them feel left out.
The Esk Street shop comes after plans for the redevelopment were unveiled last week by company director Scott O'Donnell, who said it would be one of the country's biggest redevelopments of an established retail area. Thomas said feedback gathered in the pop-up shop had been mostly positive, but that the company was yet to hear from the younger generation.
I had a great vibe from a lot of people, particularly the elderly, because they saw the future for their grandchildren. So that was really refreshing. And yet we didn't have a lot of younger people come in. And it's the younger people we want that feedback from as well.
He said the community input could vary from the type of retail shops or eateries people would like to see on offer, through to the naming of the entire precinct. The HWCP pop-up shop will be open daily from 7 a.m. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Work at the Cobden seawall on the west coast is on track for completion following major damage caused by Cyclone Fihi. Contractors have used more than 300 tonnes of rock to repair the erosion and prevent further damage.
Surveying the damage, contractors have been working to repair the Cobden sea wall in Greymouth after it took a beating by the elements earlier this year.
This was a result of Cyclone Fihi in late January, early February.
The Grey District Council's put in more than $1 million to repair the damage. The old rubbish dump near Cobden Beach was also exposed by the storm and eroded by the sea. The Cobden tiphead was also severely damaged. Sutherland says the repair job has been a massive undertaking.
It's about what we see here today, and we almost completed this section. It's about 330 metres of rock, about 26,500 tonnes just here.
Contractors have been working for about 3 months, but Sutherland says there's still work to do.
So the job at the end of the day is actually bigger than the sea protection wall in front of the landfill proper. So yeah, big works and similar sort of dollars.
The cost of the repair work isn't likely to affect ratepayers, with the council, government and insurance money footing the bill. In Greymouth, the South Today.
Southlanders now have the opportunity to share what they'd like to see in a redeveloped Southland Museum and Art Gallery. Community consultation group Our Tale are set to hold a series of workshops throughout the region, collecting ideas and thoughts for the redevelopment, even from one of the youngest residents.
If 6-year-old James McCarthy had his way, Southland's new museum would look somewhat akin to his own bedroom, dubbed the Otatara Museum of Natural History. The avid mineral enthusiast said he took the closure of the Southland Museum and Art Gallery pretty hard, but he has some big ideas when it comes to the redevelopment.
I'd like it to be a natural history museum with dinosaur skeletons.
Why would you like to see that?
Because I used to be the biggest fan of dinosaurs in the world, but now I'm into minerals. Most of these things are minerals, except for this and this. All the others are minerals. I've got fossils here and here, and these are my specialist rocks. I'll show you them.
When community consultation group Our Tale asked Southlanders to give their thoughts on their ideal future museum, James was eager to tell his tale as a Southland collector.
Some cool things I got from Goa, Flaxmen. This is my fossil rock and discovery table. Oh, and it's got a diamond. A big one.
Southland Museum and Art Gallery Board Chair Tony Biddle said rather than making the decision for Southlanders, the consultation process was about basing the new design on ideas collected from around the region.
It's driving that real community-based consultation rather than us having a concept and saying, hey, what do you want, this or that? You know, this really allows the community to get excited about the potential of our museum in the future.
And whatever the end product, for James, the sheer presence of a museum in the region is a must.
Very important, because people get to see lots of things that they love, probably love. And I wish the museum was still open.
Our Tale will be holding community workshops throughout Southland to collect ideas for the redevelopment, starting from July 5th. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
And this is Sharon's favourite.
Whether you've had a tough day at work or just need to let off some steam, a new Queenstown attraction lets you become a bull in a china shop. Smash It Room gives guests in the resort the unique opportunity to take a baseball bat, hammer or other weapon to a room full of breakable items for their own amusement.
The name says it all. Queenstown Smash It Room invites groups of up to 3 people to quite simply smash as many bottles, plates and jars as they can.
With Smash It Room, the idea is customers get to come in and for 15 minutes they become a bit of a bull in a china shop. A bit of a stress relief as they get to smash up a whole bunch of breakable items.
Smashers can choose between the New York Alley or the rustic Otago wine cellar, completely different settings depending on your mood.
We have 2 different rooms to choose from, either the sketchy New York Alley or the rustic Otago wine cellar where I'm stood now. So grab your mates, we'll give you a few different smashing weapons and go to town smashing it up.
Staff fill the rooms with items the company gets from local bars, wineries and the Salvation Army. Once the room is filled with broken debris, they clear it all up before making it safe for the next round of guests to enjoy.
Yeah, so when people go in to smash it, they're always pretty gassed, and when they come out you can tell they're pretty stoked with the experience. Sometimes they're pretty tired because there's a lot of energy throwing around all the weapons, smashing all the items, but yeah, some big smiles on their faces, a lot of satisfaction.
And if plates and cups aren't your thing, guests will soon have a wider range of breakable items to choose from, including printers for those frustrated office workers in Queenstown this South today.
Hundreds of Canterbury farmers have flocked into Addington Raceway in Christchurch to imagine what the future might look like. The theme of this year's Beef and Lamb Farm Smart Conference is future-proofing our farms, with ideas like alternative meats not necessarily being a bad thing.
Seeing what life on the farm might look like in 20 years. The annual Beef and Lamb New Zealand Northern South Island Farm Smart Conference in Christchurch has thrown up some intriguing visions of the future.
As an industry, sheep and beef industry, we're probably facing disruption not seen since the mid-80s, where subsidies came off and farmers faced that massive challenge.
Innovations such as synthetic and plant-based meats were all on the discussion menu. McIver says as eating habits change, production needs to as well, to give consumers what they want.
They've become concerned about industrial food production. They've become concerned about the impact of meat production on the environment. They have concerns about animal welfare and whether we actually need to kill animals to get meat. Could we do it another way? And then there's concerns around antibiotics, hormones, those sort of things that are commonly used in industrial meat production around the world.
He says New Zealand farmers have a pretty good track record in most of these areas compared to other countries, but he says the industry hasn't been proactive in telling its story.
As much as we look at alternative proteins being a risk, I actually see them as a tremendous opportunity for the New Zealand red meat industry to actually tell its story.
McIver believes New Zealand sheep and beef farmers could attract a premium price for their product by selling a customer experience of real meat produced in a natural environment. In Canterbury, the South today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, thousands of people packed Dunedin Centre for a mystical procession on Saturday night. And embracing a healthy lifestyle was the focus of the Natural Savvy Living Expo. Welcome back. Thousands of people packed Dunedin Centre for a mystical procession on Saturday night, and organisers say everyone was able to catch a glimpse. Elaborate lanterns seemed to glide through the darkness during the Dunedin Midwinter Carnival. But before the procession came the preparation.
All the hard work took place backstage before the fun of the fair. Roller derby bunnies, fairies and an assortment of people clothed in white practiced moves in a secret location before beginning their lantern-lit trek around central Dunedin. Co-founder Paul Smith says it's become a staple event on the Dunedin calendar.
Well, it started in 1997, so this goes back over 20 years. However, it's changed a lot over the years and grown, of course. So it's a changing thing all the time.
While performers were warming up and lighting up, Dunedin Pacifica reggae band Koile were warming up the crowd on a bitter Dunedin night with their flowing musical styles. With a few new additions to the parade and a new longer route, organisers have had their work cut out.
And thanks to the support of the City Council and a few funders like Dunedin Casino Trust and others who have come on board and helped make it happen. So we're rapt at that, and it's just going to mean a lot better viewing for audiences. You know, we've got 15 to 20,000 people who come, and the octagon just got a bit small.
Children clambered under legs and climbed trees to gaze as lantern holders and fairy tale themed performers strutted down the streets. Smith says the annual procession of lights does have its roots in a pagan celebration, but has morphed into a community event that's unique to Dunedin.
This doesn't happen in any other city. You know, if there's lanterns in other cities, they import them from China. They don't make them. These are made here by local artists, and we're talking really talented artists who have been working really hard over weeks, no months. So the skill level is amazing. They're sculptures, they're art pieces.
The evening ended with a spectacular fireworks display, which returned after an accident 2 years ago. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Alexandra's commercial ice rink was busy over the weekend with curlers celebrating 50 years of the Lowburn Curling Club. 23 curlers from the home club faced off against 5 other teams from the Central Otago region.
Celebrating 50 years of fellowship, friendship and camaraderie on the ice. The Lowburn Curling Club invited teams from Alexandra, Arrowtown, Cardrona, Mannaburn and Paulburn to take them on over the weekend and celebrate the milestone. Temperatures didn't fall enough to have ice on the club's pond in Lowburn near Cromwell, so it hired out the Alexandra rink instead.
We do have our own pond and we have our own clubhouse, and we all just love getting up the gully and where cell phones won't go and the sun doesn't shine and you can play around on the ice. Unfortunately, the last 2 years we haven't got ice, and this year's not looking too good either.
The mild winter has even put the Lowburn Club's backup rink on hold as well.
Farmers at the back of Bannockburn, Duncan and Ray Henderson, they've made a pond on their place in an area called Duffers Creek, and we can stick out there. Last year we were able to play on that most of July, and the report today from Duncan was that he's got 60 millimetres of ice there now. You really need 75, 80, like going through doesn't help.
Despite best intentions, Stuart enjoys the way luck can be a big factor in the sport of curling.
I think more than most sports, a pretty average team can beat a very good one. So there's quite an element of luck, I think, in the way we play. We don't like to think so, we think it's all skill.
The celebrations continued after the games with a haggis ceremony and dinner at Cromwell. In Alexandra, for the South Today.
Embracing a healthy lifestyle was the focus of the Natural Savvy Living Expo, held in Ashburton over the weekend. The annual event aims to build community resilience through sharing ideas on healthy living and self-sufficiency.
Sharing all kinds of tips on subjects as varied as food preserves, budgeting and gardening. Dubbed Back to Basics, the event offers local knowledge and supplies, plus information and demonstrations covering a wide range of areas. The expo was started 5 years ago by Julia Crosson as a way to strengthen the community.
Basically it's the community coming together, helping each other with DIY tips on how to live a healthier, more cost-effective life, and also be prepared for any future disasters, even if it's a job loss or something. But anyway, it's building resilience in the community, and that's what it's all about.
The expo aims to keep the conversations about self-sufficiency and healthy living going throughout the year. In Ashburton, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, a long-serving Central Otago vulnerable children's facility is set to close its doors. And a residential fire was put out in South Dunedin recently by 2 Good Samaritans. Welcome back. A long-serving Central Otago vulnerable children's facility is set to close its doors. The Roxburgh community recently gathered to give the community asset a good send-off.
A final farewell for the Stand Children's Services live-in village in Roxburgh. After nearly 80 years of service, it's closed its doors. Chief Executive Fiona Inkpen says it brings mixed emotions.
In some ways it's a celebration of an immense contribution. And on the other hand, it brings with it a great sense of loss and a sense of grief that won't continue to happen.
Inkpen says staff will remain involved with the families they've been working with, but to a lesser degree. Mayor Tim Cadogan says the facility has changed the lives of vulnerable children in the south.
I'm just heartbroken, Tom. It's an absolute bloody outrage that this fantastic facility that for generations have helped the kids of the south, the most vulnerable kids of the south, stops doing that today. I'm bloody angry and really sad.
He's placing the blame squarely at the feet of Minister for Children Tracy Martin, but says staff have shown great resilience.
I've just been in such admiration of all the staff here, the bravery that they've carried themselves through with and the dignity, and they've always been, every time I've talked to them, I haven't had one person say, I don't know what I'm going to do for a job, I don't know what it means for me. Every single one of them has talked about the kids and the help that they're not going to be able to give the kids anymore.
A few staff will still work from the village, but the live-in service for children will shut down, although they are determined to get it back up and running in the future. In Roxburgh, the South Today.
Most of the 120 people who attended a public consultation meeting on the Zero Carbon Bill in Greymouth last night had a clear message for Climate Change Minister James Shaw. They say Shaw and the Labour-led government is destroying the West Coast.
A vocal and angry crowd challenging Climate Change Minister James Shaw at a public meeting in Greymouth. The Greens co-leader told the crowd weather effects from climate change are a costly issue.
Puts 2018 on track to be the most expensive year on record for insurance claims. January, of course, you saw floods in Otago and Canterbury with costs of more than about $55 million following massive slips and destroyed road surfaces. Roads were washed again into the sea in the Coromandel. And Auckland's Tamaki Drive was underwater again.
But flooding on Auckland's Tamaki Drive wasn't really a concern for some of the West Coasters who attended, including Westland District Councillor Durham Haville.
What's going on? Like the West Coast has never, as Lee said, has never felt more vulnerable than it is today.
Westland Mayor Bruce Smith says he frequently has coasters coming to him for help as the employment climate on the West Coast is changing.
Now, our coast since November of last year has been turned from a vibrant, enthusiastic economy looking forward to one where every day I'm harassed by these buggers about gold miners being laid off, sphagnum moss, inability to get to it, grazing leases in South Western being cancelled.
He says the people of the coast have never felt as unsettled as they do now, and reminded the minister the coast is the only carbon positive region in the country thanks to all of its trees. In Greymouth, the South Today.
A residential fire was put out in South Dunedin recently by two Good Samaritans. The local men say they were just doing what they had to do.
They're being described as local heroes. These two Dunedin residents managed to save a Caversham house from burning down this morning before firefighters had a chance to get there. Bryce Vanderwater and Pete McLaughlin were travelling down Esther Crescent when they saw smoke and flames coming from the house on Rutherford Street.
We ran down, jumped the fence, Bryce banged on the windows and doors. No reply, so he got a hose handed to him from over the fence by a lady, had a spray nozzle, and he just started in on the fire.
Vanderwater, the man who put out the blaze, says it was no big deal.
It's pretty simple. Put the fire out the bottom so it can't climb the wall, and then put the top out.
He says when they could see there weren't any fire engines around, they had to act quickly.
Well, I don't know if we were the first, like maybe there was, when I come running around the front of the house, there was people around, but I don't know if anyone had gone in there or...
4 fire trucks arrived at the scene just after 9:30. The fire service says after initial fears there may be a person trapped inside, a search of the building ensured nobody had been harmed. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Dunedin chef duo from Toroa College have been crowned the winners of a Master Chef style competition in Dunedin. Organisers say the level of cooking on offer was top-notch.
Tracy Leishman and John Barkos have come away with the first place trophy from the 2018 Residential College Chef of the Year competition. 9 teams of chefs from across Otago University's halls of residence battled it out in a 70-minute session, producing 2 courses for judges to taste.
Well, Toroa's won it for, this is our 3rd year that we've won it, and yeah, it was definitely a surprise, yeah. This is the second year that I've won it, the second back-to-back.
The teams needed to produce meals using venison backstrap, salmon fillet or oysters, and a compulsory mystery ingredient, licorice. Barkos only joined Tauranga College 3 weeks ago and says he was surprised by the win.
We weren't expecting it at all. Yeah, we got lucky. Everything just goes well on what we did.
The team took the title with their main of venison, fondant, potato and capsicum licorice jam, cream cheese, cucumber rolls and parmesan and kale wafers. Competition organiser Gary McNeil says the level of cooking ability was high this year.
The scoring was very tight. The judges were very impressed with the overall variance between the scoring. There was nothing in it, and they spent a lot of time judging and trying to decide the second and third placings.
He says he plans to expand the event in future years, encouraging all 15 halls to take part, and hopes it could one day be televised. In Dunedin, the South Today.
That's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook, or keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.